Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Block Theater. It is March 26, 2020. I'm now officially 38 years old, and I'm in quarantine, kind of, in my home state of Washington right now, waiting for any kind of good news to come out of this whole Budlight situation, waiting for any kind of good announcement. Lately, everything's been terrible. So it's kind of a drab and demure way to spend my birthday. But still, I love doing this. I love talking to you guys about what's going on. And today, we actually might have a tidbit of good information, at least for coming down the pipeline. Not right now, but things to expect as things eventually return to normal. And that might actually be free movies in theaters, which is just wild to think about considering how much it costs to go to theaters these days. But that industry has been rocked to its core. It's been halted dead in its tracks, and it is going to need to find a way to absolutely positively bring crowds back together at a time when we're told that 6 feet apart is the place we have to be. Anyway, this is coming to us from JoeBlow.com that says movie theaters may open for free after the Bud Light virus ends. And that is something I agree with. I think they should do whatever they can to be able to put people back in theaters and to restore the trust of going to these establishments. I have said that I do feel that once things reopen, there will be a flocking to the theaters because people are going to want to kind of just get out there and live their life again and get back on track. But there might also be a whole situation where people are still fearful because we are living in weird, uncertain times. And not everyone out there is going to want to immediately, get back to normal when we're still being told that this could be lasting up to a year and a half of this whole situation. And so it is not looking great, but this is something that could be looked at as beautiful for on the horizon. So this is what it says here. All right. In an interview with Screen Rant, the National Association of Theater Owners Chief Communications Officer Patrick Corcoran suggested movie theaters may open for free when they're back up and running, saying this would follow the same strategy that China is implementing as they begin to reopen their theaters after dealing with this pandemic. Theaters in those countries are beginning by running old movies such as Avatar and Endgame and Harry Potter at no cost to the consumer. This is a tactic that will only work if theaters have the stability of money coming in the form of loans or bailouts. And that has been something that theater owners have been asking for. And apparently the government is to an extent not 100% on board with. And I do think that that is something that they should get on board with. Entertainment is a staple of life. The arts and pop culture in our country are absolutely a staple of life, a staple of our society. And there are 120,000 people that are currently out of work in the entertainment industry that are now, they may not get any kind of financial help. And so it's one of those things where I do think that this is something that we should potentially look into as being a bit of a bailout. And if they offer these services, these movies for free, that would go a long way to reestablishing normalcy with not only the public, but the movie-going public. In fact, this is what Patrick here says. He says, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're looking at what's been happening in China, in the provinces that were least affected. They're starting to open their theaters, and they're opening them for free to patrons to coax them back. The movies they're showing are older ones. We will see. It's going to depend. We're both local and national markets, and our main distribution partners are very interested in national releases as opposed to local ones. So depending on how this virus goes and whether it's more severe in some places and lifts sooner or later, that's all going to go into it. We're looking at ways to reach our patrons and also our studio partners about the best ways to message and roll things out once we're back up and running. And that is fantastic in my opinion, because that's a good way to look at it. And I've talked about this before. So for anyone out there who, caught my video talking about how the National Association of Theater Owners was trying to throw the gauntlet at Universal over Trolls World Tour, I kind of said, look, theaters are going to have to go back, and they're going to have to start making these experiences again, making these events that are once in a, that are unique, that are rare. Like, Fathom Events has cult classics. They'll do certain special screenings that end up drawing in a decent sized audience. Kevin Smith himself made a lot of money, actually even broke one of Endgame's records by doing a traveling roadshow for the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. People want to go to theaters, and they will if there's a good enough reason to go to theaters. And this is where we are right now. This is what they have to do. Focus on getting people back in there, reestablishing normalcy, and then also creating what is going to be known as a new normal, which is ultimately where we're going to find ourselves. As I said before, the best thing really that theaters should do is approach Hulu, approach Netflix, approach these streaming services, approach Disney, and say, listen, Mandalorian season 2, how about this? We work a deal with you guys. We'll drop the first couple episodes in theaters in IMAX or in our large format theaters or whatever. We'll stream it out there, first 2 episodes the week the show drops. So then people who want to go and see the first 2 episodes can go and see the first 2 episodes and pay a premium to go and see these. That means money in the theater pockets, money in the employer's or the employees' pockets, money in Disney's pockets, which of course they want because they're at a massive loss right now. And then people can go to the theaters together with their friends and their family and watch the first couple episodes of Mandalorian season 2. We need to start finding a way to bridge the gap between television, streaming, and network and cable, and putting those in theaters. And the reason why I say this is because it was an interesting experiment back in 2017 when Jeff Loeb and Ike Perlmutter over at Marvel Television worked a deal with IMAX to get IMAX to fund the first 2 episodes of The Inhumans. In fact, to shoot it in IMAX, they shot for TV with IMAX cameras in order to put the first 2 episodes on a limited 2-week engagement in IMAX theaters, trying to bring in the diehard, dedicated Marvel fan base to IMAX to get them to come on in and spend the money. It was a $70 million investment on IMAX's part, and it was an utter failure that entirely killed that show, mostly because Scott Buck is a terrible showrunner and should never be allowed near comics or anything else ever again. But they've made those attempts before. And I've said before too, why wasn't the Game of Thrones final season series premiere or the series finale streamed in theaters the same day it was airing on HBO? If people have already paid for HBO, people would then, HBO is not losing any money, but people could then also go and see it on the big screen, happy or not with the ending, but they would get that experience, which would then allow them to have a solid, good memory about these theaters. And that's how I view it. That's what theaters need to do. So if they're going to coax you into 3 movies, if they were like, hey man, we're going to bring Avatar back to theaters, I'm like, yeah, no, I'd go see it. Like, is it going to be an IMAX for free? Because like that was dope, man. Or if Warner Brothers is like, hey, we're going to put Watchmen back in theaters, or we're going to put 300 back in theaters for free, or the Dark Knight trilogy. We're going to put the Dark Knight back in theaters for free for a week. Who wouldn't go rush out to go see it? I own that movie on DVD, HD DVD, and Blu-ray. I would still go see The Dark Knight in theaters if they were like putting it back. So that is what they need to do. And they said that in there. He says we're looking, our distributors want national releases, not local releases. And he's referring to localized special events versus national special events. And I think right now, showcasing older movies, like let's say, for example, with Ghostbusters Afterlife coming out, why not run Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2 for a week or 2 ahead of time? And they do this occasionally, but like to really kind of put it out there leading up to it, or do a triple feature or something. And they should do a triple feature because, again, I would be there for that. And I think a lot of people want those kind of special events because those are going to get them out. Those are going to get them trusting it again and enjoying themselves again, which means they're going to spend more money and they're going to have more fun. And that, of course, is going to be what saves the movie theater industry, in my opinion. It's got to go exhibition, whether it's streaming esports or streaming sporting events. Why isn't the Super Bowl up there, right? Why don't you go and watch the Super Bowl from the comfort of a movie theater, right? You spend 3 hours watching Endgame, you spend 3 hours watching a football game. People would go. I wouldn't, because I don't like sports. I'm not a big sports fan. If you've seen me, I'm kind of a portly individual. Not to say I don't like sports. I just don't like watching televised sports. But I don't know, maybe going and seeing like the Super Bowl on an IMAX screen shot with, 8K IMAX, cameras that are broadcasting in this beautifully digital image with a 12,000 watt sound system could actually do quite a bit in regards to getting me enthralled into maybe wanting to do this more often as a special event. And that's what they're going to have to do. And I think it deep down. I know it deep down. And that is something that the theater owners right now are going to have to figure out. Now, not every theater is going to be able to accommodate this. You have your local mom and pop ones that are going to have a lot of trouble. They have to rely on new movies. That is true. And I wish them the absolute best. I worked for a 2-screen drive-in theater. That place is my home away from home, no matter where I'm at in this world. That is always my home away from home. And I want it to thrive and I want it to survive. And I care about it deeply. And I don't know what they're going to do. But for the AMCs and the Regals and the Cinemarks, that's what they have to do. Anyway, I am curious to hear your thoughts, your opinions. Let me know down in the comments below. If you made it this far, type IMAX into the chat so I know. I will talk to you guys all later. Have yourself a great day. Thank you again for watching, and peace out.